to Eat, Read, Sleep, where we summarize books to save you time. I'm Kalina.
And I'm Tapis, and this is the 8 Rules of Love, How to Find It, Keep It, and Let It Go by Jay Shetty.
So why love? Well, for many of us, love isn't something that we have been actively taught.
Right. It's not like we took a course on Love 101 in high school.
So for many people, what we know of love has been portrayed in romantic movies and pop culture and a collection of cliches.
So instead of presenting love as a magical concept, Jay sits down with us and shares his insights on how to define love, how to win or lose together, and why you don't break in a breakup.
Yep, taking wisdom from the oldest Hindu scriptures and modern science, we're going to break down this book into 4 parts and go through the relationship cycle with loving ourselves, our partners, and the world around us. Let's go. Rule number 1 is solitude and self-love. This is about learning to be alone, to understand who we are, to heal, and to take care of ourselves. But being alone can be hard for some people, and rightfully so. Growing up, we were primed to fear loneliness. It's like instilled in us. I mean, when you see a child alone, you can't help but think they're a loner. And oh gosh, imagine going to the movies or a dance or a wedding by yourself, right? Like, what's wrong with you? It's like being alone is a disease that no one wants to catch. And unfortunately, our society has equated alone to mean the same thing as lonely. Enter Jay Shetty. Jay helps us understand that being alone is not the same as being lonely. And being alone can actually cure loneliness. So the real question is, how do we get comfortable with being alone? And how do we turn that into a state of solitude? Well, we go through 3 stages. The first is presence. We pay attention to how we feel and we look at the choices that we make. This allows us to know our values. The second stage is discomfort. You just gotta sit in it. Being alone might feel awkward at first, but the more you allow yourself to practice this, the more settling it will feel to you. And finally, stage 3 is confidence. You've sat alone for so long that you just don't give up anymore. Yes, you've made it. You can have a conversation without seeking approval and without your self-esteem going haywire just because the other person made a look as you were talking. You don't spiral. Confidence is the final step to solitude. Once here, you understand that you want to go on a journey with someone, not make someone your journey. In solitude, we learn to love ourselves. We develop compassion and empathy and patience, and these are all qualities that we can then use to love another person.
Rule number 2 is don't ignore your karma. People think karma means that if you do something bad, bad things will happen to you. But that's not how that works. Karma is the law of cause and effect. What you think leads to a reaction. So what you think about love leads to how you go about finding love. Our impressions of love were made up for us from childhood. We saw it in our parents, we saw it in Disney movies, and in my case, in Bollywood movies. And the problem with impressions is that they are formed without conscious thought or based on very little evidence. I mean, where is the Disney data on happily ever after? Did Princess Ariel really have a happy marriage with Prince Eric? Did Shah Rukh Khan or Rahul have a good marriage with Tina, even though he got married to her, and then he was also in love with Anjali, and then Tina died from cancer, and Anjali ended up, getting married to somebody else, and then she falls in love with Shah Rukh Khan. Like, what is all that about? And I'm completely off script. Anyways, all of our lives, we get these ideas and opinions from our environment, our parents, and our friends. They're all about influencing our thinking, our behaviors, and how we respond, which is why it's important to look at our current impressions. And the ones that don't make sense anymore, we have to just kind of move past them. Doing this allows us to learn from our past and heal, and learn to stop making the same mistakes over and over again. Another impression from childhood that doesn't serve us well anymore, the fact that we all are hardwired to look outward to others for validation and satisfaction instead of looking inward. From taking your first steps, to potty training, to bringing home a perfect report card, which I never did, or winning a state championship, which I never did as well, we are all trained to make others proud of us. So by looking at our karma mindset, that helps us to stop depending on other people to fulfill our emotional needs. We need to be able to do that for ourselves.
All right, Now that we're all done with part one, we've got your confidence, we can chill in solitude, and we've rewired our thoughts or our karma so that we are the one that is in control of our lives. Now we can enter phase two. Rule three is defining love, but doing so for yourself. And that's because there's no one definition of love. It's different for everyone, and it comes in different forms. Like, I love my kids, but I also love Taco Bell. Still love, but it's not quite the same, right? Which leaves a lot of room for confusion, for miscommunication, and false expectations. So when we talk about defining love, we have to remember that the definition is only for ourselves. Which also means, on the flip side, when we accept someone's love, we have to realize that they're using their definition of love, not ours. Okay, so let's define love for ourselves. Here's where we refer to this handy list, the 4 phases of love. Attraction. This isn't just, oh, hey, they look good kind of attraction. It's more like, there's something about this person that's worth our time and effort. Swipe right. You go on some dates, you spend some QT together, and then bam, you're daydreaming about this person. Enter phase 2, dreams. All right, so this person is worth our time. Let's double down and make sure we actually have some substance together. We call this realistic expectation versus false intoxicating dreams. This is when you have to figure out how you handle your differences instead of clinging to the similarities that you both have. And then phase 3. This is the struggle and the growth. All right, this is where you're in it. Now we're dealing with the real shit, like living together and finances and why the hell does he snore every single night so loudly? Yeah, this is the deal breaker phase. You tally up all the red flags and then you make a decision. Because after this, you're in it for the long haul. Now, keep in mind there are only 3 paths from here on out. You can walk, peace out. You can stay and decide to work on it together. Or you can stay and ignore the warning signs and live miserably for the rest of your lives. Jay doesn't recommend this last one. And finally, the last phase of love is trust. The growth that we have built together through all of this work builds into trust. And there's 3 aspects of trust. You have physical trust, where you feel safe and cared for in their presence. You have mental trust, where you trust their minds and their ideas. And then you have the emotional trust. You trust their values and who they are as a human. The depth of your trust depends on all 3 of these aspects. Now, remember, love comes in all shapes and sizes. So you'll go through these 4 phases with not just your partner, but with everyone that's important to you. And you'll likely cycle through these phases together for as many times as it takes.
Rule 4, your partner is your guru. You might be thinking I'm kind of weird for saying that, but hear me out, guys. Psychology researchers tell us that we typically form our concept of how others see us based on how we see ourselves. But Jay argues that is complete BS. We all have a different lens and everyone sees everything differently, which means that the person you want to make your partner should be able to teach you things that you can't see for yourself without getting all defensive and upset. I've been there. Be open. Don't shut down or get mad when you hear something about yourself that you don't like. Your partner should be someone you want to learn with, learn from, and learn through. Not like a ghost, but you know what I mean. And learning through someone is the hardest one. Learning through someone is watching their behavior and having the attention and patience to see what's actually teaching you, which could be kind of super hard because your partner is probably annoyed of you or you're annoyed of them, but just try. But instead of assuming fault, we realize that actions and our reactions are teaching us something about ourselves. Like gurus, we offer guidance without judgment, wisdom without ego, and love without expectations. What makes this so hard for most people? Jay shares that most common complaints people make about their partners is that they don't do what they want them to do. He doesn't clean the house enough. She's rude to my friends. He forgot my birthday. But if you think people should do what you want to do and when you want them to do it, I got bad news for you, dude. That's not a relationship, it's ownership. Ownership is about control. Let go of control and learn together.
Rule number 5, purpose comes first. Listen, I want to get something straight here. There's this archaic generational idea that we have to make sacrifices and devote ourselves to another person. And frankly, that energy needs to go. Sacrifice is a bad word, and it only leads to resentment and regret. In order to be our best selves in a relationship, we also have to follow our own purpose and our own dreams. Your purpose is why you do something, why you connect to something. It defines you. So why wouldn't we prioritize it? Jay helps us realize that in every relationship, there are three relationships we need to pay attention to all the time. The first one is our relationship with each other, then our relationship with our own purpose, and then your partner's relationship with their own purpose. Three relationships. And as a mom, I hear it all the time. By looking after myself, I'm better equipped to take care of my kids. And it's true. You best believe that that oxygen mask is going on me first if our plane is going down.
Part 3, as Elsa says, let it go. All right, so far we've gone through solitude and compatibility. The next part is all about healing. In Rule 6, we can decide if we want to win together or lose together, but as a couple. When it comes to conflicts and arguments, most of us are used to thinking that the one person's always right and the other person's always wrong. But what if those weren't the only choices? Let's face it, everyone fights. No matter how compatible or how perfect a couple may be, no one can escape conflict because no two people have the same exact lens. So, if we know we can't run from it, why do we have to make it out to be a bad thing or something that we're afraid of? Jay tells us that every couple should fight, but every couple should fight for the same team. How does that work? Well, try shifting your arguments to a shared goal. So instead of looking at it like you're taking sides against each other, frame the conversation as if it's the two of you together taking on the problem. For example, if you're going into an argument with something like, hey, you don't clean up after yourself, you're such a slob, working together would sound like, hey, we need to set up a routine around daily chores. But keep in mind that everyone has their own fight styles, kind of like having their own different love languages. Or like real fights where someone's southpaw and regular. Some like to vent and find answers the right way. Others tend to hide or shut down until they are ready. While others are like explosive volcanoes, like the person recording this. It doesn't matter what kind of fight style you have to know each other's and create space so that it can be dealt properly. If we learn how to fight together, we can help build a healthy relationship based on communication, listening, and understanding.
Rule number 7 is an important one to remember. You don't break in a breakup. Sometimes we go through all the rules and we still get to the stage where there's a tiny crack or maybe a big crack in a relationship that we just can no longer seal. And if this happens, it's important to perfect the breakup process. You have to remember that it's okay to hurt. Just because the relationship crumbles, it doesn't mean that you crumble. You existed before the relationship and you will outlast it. Okay, so here's the dumper dumpy process. Here's how you swipe left in a relationship. If you are the dumper, first of all, don't drag out the relationship. Set a deadline, be gentle with their emotions, and just be clear and honest. Then you make a clean break. Yep, swap your stuff, unfollow, unplug, unfriend. If it's over, it's over. And if for whatever wild reason it is that you want to remain friends, you can, but Jay recommends you go cold turkey for a full year first. Now, let's switch it over. If you are the dumpy, it doesn't have to sound so sad. Remind yourself that the person who hurt you can't heal you, and get away from them as quickly and as far away as possible. After all, closure is something that you give yourself. Here's what you can do. Redefine your value. Part of what makes being broken up with so hard is that we feel devalued. This person who once held us in high regard no longer thinks the same way. But remember that while we may be devalued by this one person, it's only one person. We get to set our own worth and we'll find someone who values us for who we are. And then we can remember that love isn't about loving just one person. It's really about deepening our capacity for love, which extends beyond family and friends and purpose. We remember that if we practice and give love to the greater world, we will receive love in many beautiful ways. Heartbreak doesn't truly break us, it breaks us open. Part 4, the grand finale. Rule 8 is to love again and again. Okay, let me ask you this. If you had $1,000 to give away, would you give $1 to 1,000 people? Or would you give $1,000 to one person? Let's think about it for a second. If you gave it all to one person, it might actually change their life in some way. And if you gave $1 to 1,000 people, you might be able to feed a whole community for one meal. Although both answers sound helpful, we can take a step back to see that if we gave $1 to 1,000 people, we're actually helping more people, which will, in a way, mean we're spreading more love overall. In the first phase of love, we're usually giving away all $1,000, aka our love, to that one person. But in the fourth stage of love, we kind of have to change our approach and start handing out dollar bills, aka love, to many people. Because now we know that we don't find love by waiting for it. We create it for ourselves and for those around us. Earlier, we talked about false impressions, and one of them is that love is only the romantic kind, a love story between two people. Our love is only reserved for our partners, our families, our close friends. But guys, love is only the beginning. Getting into relationships help us practice for something bigger, something life-changing. When we get to this fourth stage of love, the goal is simply this: look beyond ourselves and help others. We're in the ultimate stage of love if we experience love by constantly choosing to give it away to others. We find love in moments of frustration, annoyance, anger, even when it's really, really hard. We create more loving connections with every person that we meet. Smile at strangers. And we feel love for all humanity. It's your choice. You can seek love your whole life and maybe never find it, or you can give love your whole life and experience joy. Take a look around us, guys. The news, it's all overwhelming. It's kind of sad. We see pain, we see suffering all around us. And sometimes we think, what can I do? What difference can I really make? But if we send good energy and love out into the world to anyone who needs it, they will be able to reach someone else, and that will mean something. We understand what helping one person can do. Love the world, and you'll get a world of love in return.
And that's the 8 rules of love, how we can love ourselves, our partners, and the world better than we ever thought possible.
Thanks for listening to our summary here at Eat, Read, Sleep, friends. If you want to show us some love, feel free to hug that subscribe button, send us a love note in the comments, and tap that thumbs up icon. I'm Kalina.
And I'm Tapas.
And this is Eat, Read, Sleep. Let's vibe with books.